When Love Was Never Mine. Previous episodes are available in playlist, a link is given in the video description. Episode 10. Jerry tried to block Olivia's line of sight by standing in front of her. "Don't look, Ms. Olivia." On the other hand, Tom burst out in curses. "I take back what I said about him. He betrayed his wife. He's scum. Don't look at a scum like him, Ms. Olivia. You don't have to dirty your eyes by looking at him." Olivia's heart ached for a bit. Ethan was married to Marina. It didn't change anything, even if Ethan held her captive and slept next to her every night. Marina wanted to solidify her status. So, she planned for open shows of affection between her and Ethan. She also showed up in public places with Ethan in tow. She didn't expect to see Olivia here and held Ethan's arm tighter. It was her way of showing off her victory. It was a simple strategy, but it was effective. Ethan watched as Olivia brought Tom and Jerry to another area of the exhibit. He then withdrew his hand from Marina's clutches. In the past, he was still courteous to Marina. But now, he wasn't even willing to keep up appearances with her. Marina's face twisted in hatred. She said in a low voice, "Are you going to look for that peach? Ethan Miller, do not forget that I am your fiancé now." Ethan lowered his face to look at Marina, who was throwing a tantrum. In the past, he complied with Marina's wishes and respected her. He had held their siblinghood and childhood friendship highly. But now that Marina has shown her true colors to him, he couldn't stand the sight of her. "You wanted me to keep up appearances with you, and I did," Ethan said coldly. There was no compassion for her in his eyes. "Now, everyone thinks that we're a loving couple." Marina watched as Ethan left. Her face contorted in anger, and hatred filled her heart. She had a bad feeling. Ethan seemed to hate Olivia less and less. His love for Olivia seemed to be growing. She went to a corner angrily and dialed an unfamiliar number. She said, "I've considered your proposal. I accept." The voice over the phone said with a hint of joy, "You're a smart woman, Ms. Carlton." Marina wasn't able to tell if the voice came from a man or a woman. "What do you want me to do?" "You'll need to endure a little suffering." "I don't mind suffering a little if I can get Ethan back to me." Marina's eyes were filled with hatred. She continued, "This time, I want her to lose completely." "As you wish, Ms. Carlton." The voice said in an amused tone that sent chills down Marina's spine. The light cast a long shadow behind Olivia. It made her seem more isolated and lonely. That was until she suddenly collided with someone. She raised her head and met Ethan's gaze. They were in a blind spot of the security cameras. No one noticed them. Olivia moved away calmly. She said in a flat tone, "You shouldn't be here, Ethan. You'll have to waste money on PR if we're caught on camera." Even though she was looking out for him, her voice was unbelievably calm. Ethan was unable to feel that she cared about him. He suddenly realized that compared to the current composed Olivia, he preferred the Olivia of the past, who would get jealous. "Is this what you are concerned about?" Ethan's voice carried a hint of coldness. Olivia was confused. She said, "The makings of a good mistress are obedience and not causing trouble for her man." Ethan tightened his hands on her shoulders. He said with a smirk, "Well, you sure know your place, mistress." Olivia felt a stab of pain in her heart. What else could it be? You're getting engaged with Ms. Carlton. So what would our relationship be described in the olden times? Would I be a second wife? A concubine? We've got lots of names for that in the modern day, too. What should I address myself as? A lover, side chick, or mistress? Which do you prefer, Ethan? Even though Olivia was being so docile, he felt a sense of unexplainable mystery to her. That caused him to feel uneasy. It would have been in his nature to hold her captive by his side after he brought her back from the island. But he suppressed his desire to do that. Instead, he gave her freedom and fulfilled her wishes. He even took extra care of Tom and Jerry. He thought that if he did so much for her, she would be so happy that her eyes lit up. In reality, she was calm. There were no emotions in her eyes. No matter how much he did for her, it didn't stir her emotions even a little. Olivia's calm face was reflected in his icy gaze. "Olivia, enough is enough." Ethan's voice was filled with uncontrollable anger. "Even if I marry her, it would not affect your position at all." His words sounded like he was doing her a favor. Olivia smiled. The mockery in her smile was apparent. "She already has the position of Mrs. Miller. What else do I have to give?" Before Ethan could reply, Olivia reached out to adjust his collar. She didn't want to stay on that topic. After all, if they ended up in a fight, she would have to make an effort to appease him. "All right, go back to your fiancé. I know my place. I won't put you on the spot." She took a step back and continued, "Thanks for not holding a grudge against Tom and Jerry." Ethan watched Olivia disappear from his sight with his mouth open. Olivia was back at his side, but she lost her spark. It was like his words passed right through her. He reassured himself with the thought that she loved him a lot and that she was just sad for the moment. He told himself that she would run back to him soon. She would be that woman that only had him in her eyes. Olivia brought the boys to a lot of places. Their smiles never ceased. She patted them on the head and said with a smile, "Study well. You will definitely make a name for yourselves in this city. We won't disappoint you, Ms. Olivia." Jerry raised his fists into the air. "Ms. Olivia, why didn't you become a painter? You're so talented," he asked in confusion. Olivia bit on her straw and said, "Painting is only a hobby of mine. I prefer to practice medicine. But I gave that up for a man. I became the way I am now because of him. I cannot paint like when I was 13. So, choose your love wisely." The sweetness of the milk tea was not able to soothe the pain she felt in her heart. Now, even her stomach was starting to hurt. She hadn't vomited blood much recently. But the stomach pains would not subside quickly. She took some pain medication and brought the boys to play in an escape room. Although Olivia was only 7 to 8 years older than the boys, she felt a sense of motherly love. She wanted them to play at all the places they had never been to before and eat the food they hadn't tried before. Even when they said they didn't like sweets, she forced them to try some because they never tried them before. She even declared that they must have everything that the other children had. After they entered the escape room, she reassured them and said, "Don't be afraid. I'll protect you too." 3 seconds after they entered, a deathly pale person jumped out from a dormitory bed. Olivia yelled, "Ah! Run!" She didn't have time to think. She grabbed someone's arm and began running. Realization struck her after she ran some distance. She didn't look at who she grabbed before she ran. That would mean that one of the boys was left at the scene. Oh no! Who did she grab? She turned to look. But she was face to face with a deathly pale face, with very long hair. Ah! What the hell? Did she grab the ghost? Her mouth was covered up by a hand mid-scream. She was then dragged to a cabinet nearby. There was barely any light in the cabinet. Olivia was trembling in fear. She would not have come if she knew how scary it was. A familiar voice suddenly started laughing softly next to her. The person was amused by her fear. The voice resembled someone she knew. At that moment, a prop lamp was turned on. Eerie green light shone on his deathly pale face. Olivia was about to scream, then the voice said, "It's me." Olivia paused and swallowed nervously. She called out his name carefully, "Jack." Yet, the usually reserved man's voice had a hint of joy. "I'm sorry we have to meet this way. I didn't know you were so easily scared." The truth was he had no intention of scaring Olivia. He dressed up as a ghost so that he could evade the bodyguards. He didn't expect to be grabbed and dragged along by Olivia before he could speak. Olivia patted herself on the chest and said, "You scared me to death." Jack has never seen Olivia so frightened, not even when he had a knife against her throat when they first met. She looked livelier this way. "Okay, let's get back to the main issue. I've got a lead on the person you asked me to look into." Jack stopped teasing her and updated her on his investigation. "What did you find?" "The Ryan you mentioned didn't come back to the country recently. Occasionally, he travels overseas on business trips." Olivia was not surprised that something was fishy about Ryan. She knew that the mastermind had some pawns placed around her and Ethan. When she was at her wit's end, Ryan was the pawn that the mastermind placed close to her. The information that Lee uncovered was only the information that the mastermind wanted her to know. It was still up for debate how much of the information was true in the report Ethan had. The truth was still under wraps because Jeff was still unconscious in the hospital. The mastermind knew Jeff's importance to Olivia. He was an important piece of the puzzle, which was why he was going to be used as the most integral part of the scheme. "Can you find out who Ryan is working for?" Jack was frowning. Although his face was painted white, Olivia could see that he had a strong jawline. His facial features were well defined and sharp. He was definitely a good-looking guy underneath the face paint. "I didn't have enough time. So, I haven't uncovered anything about that yet. But I'll have something for you in 2 weeks, tops." In reality, Jack didn't think he needed that much time. He asked for more time just to be safe. "I have something else I need you to help me with other than looking into people like Dr. Galloway and Ryan." Jack said without hesitation, "What is it?" "Find a good nursing home for my father. His current location is no longer safe. He could become a forsaken pawn at any time. You need to take him away without anyone knowing. I can't do it because that person must have someone spying on me and Ethan. You're the only one I can trust." Olivia felt like she was asking too much of Jack. They weren't family or friends. She added, I only have $500 million left now. I can't take this money with me to the afterlife. I will leave it to you as compensation." Jack looked at her with a hint of condescension. "Our deal was the island. You have kept your word. That's enough for me." Olivia nodded and said, "There's one more thing I need your help with." "Yes. Take me away from here. I want to go and investigate Belle. She is full of secrets." Olivia snuck out the back door with Jack. She also changed into new clothes. She was surprised by Jack's incredible skill in disguise. He just stuck a few things on her face and easily changed her facial features. He then added a layer of powder and made her look about 10 years older. Jack's face was the same. He disguised himself as a middle-aged man. He looked completely different from his usual self. They headed to the Harmony Psychiatric Hospital. Olivia impersonated Belle's distant relative and met the hospital director. Jack did not show himself. He flipped over the metal fence with relative ease. Olivia was shocked at the sight. Even if the fence wasn't electrocuted, there were spikes on top. She didn't understand how Jack was able to pull it off. They decided to divide and conquer. Olivia told the director why she was there. The director displayed a hint of regret. Sigh, the poor kid was sad. Her parents never visited her even though she was here for such a long time. No one even came for the body. Olivia initially thought that the body would have been cremated already. She didn't expect it to still be in the morgue. "Don't worry, director. We'll give her a good funeral after we get her out of here. Her parents are overseas. It's hard for them to come back. I'll handle her funeral. Also, do you have her belongings?" "All right, I have collected all her belongings. Come with me." Olivia stopped when she walked by the ward she visited last time. She said, "Can I take a look inside?" Sure, her roommates were all moved after she died, so this ward is also empty. Olivia pushed open the door. The decor of the room looked more desolate than before. There were only beds and cabinets in the room. The walls were also painted white. Sunlight came into the room through the windows. It illuminated the dust in the air. The desolate room was like Belle's life, rife with despair. "This is so sad. My niece had excellent grades in school. Who would have known that it would come to this? We were counting on her to be the pride of our family." The director agreed, "It is indeed sad. She was such a pretty little lady." "Hey, director! Are we the only ones to ever visit her? Not even her parents care." Needless to say, no one else came. "Oh, I think I remember a boy who came once. He looked like her." But Belle was triggered at the sight of the boy. She lost control. The boy never came again after that. Olivia's expression turned serious when she heard that. What did the boy look like? He was pretty tall. His skin was a little tanned. He looked like a university student. "Director, can you look him up on the visitors' records?" "I can. But why do you want to look that up?" The director looked at Olivia curiously. Olivia sighed again and said, "I didn't want to say it. But my poor niece was driven to madness because she was deceived and got pregnant in school. She dropped out of school in despair due to that. I just wanted to see who was the person that made her this way." My niece's parents didn't really love her. But I have liked her since she was a kid. If I wasn't stuck overseas, I would have come for her long ago. Alright, I'll look it up for you. The director was able to find the boy's name very quickly. The boy's name was Paul Cruz. Then, he handed Belle's belongings to Olivia. Olivia expressed her gratitude to him. It's nothing much. At least I got to see it through to the end. The director waved his hand. Olivia went on to ask, I heard that there was a doctor who took care of my niece when she was still alive. I want to thank her in person. There's no need for that. Dr. Galloway has already resigned. Olivia feigned surprise and said, Really? That's a pity. I heard that she was a good doctor. Dr. Galloway is indeed a good doctor. She took good care of Belle in the 2 years. I guess she just couldn't accept Belle's sudden death. But that is her choice. We can only respect it. Olivia asked the director a few more questions on and off again. Then, she bid farewell to the director and went to the funeral home to take care of Belle's remains. Olivia made her intentions known at the funeral home. An employee said, I'll have to remind you that this body died by jumping off a building. Her family didn't pay for funeral expenses. The body was taken here and left in the freezer. We didn't even do basic embalming on it. In addition, the body has been here for 2 months. You might need to brace yourself for the decomposition. The employee brought them to the room where the bodies were stored while he was talking. He said nonchalantly, most of the bodies were not collected by anyone. We would deal with them after they've been left here for a certain amount of time. You're lucky that the body you're looking for is still here. He stopped walking, pointed at a mortuary cabinet, and said, This is it. Do you want to say your goodbyes? If not, we can have it cremated straight away. It was Olivia's first time in a place like this. The room was freezing. The cold seeped in from the bottom and spread through her body. It also felt like countless eyes were looking at her from behind. It took all her energy to remain standing in the room. Don't be afraid, Jack said softly. Olivia's hands were covered in cold sweat. She said in a low tone, We want to say our goodbyes. Okay, but don't take too long. I'll be waiting outside. The employee left. A gust of wind came out of nowhere. It scared Olivia so much that she jumped into Jack's arms. Jack held her waist and sighed lightly. You're not suited for a place like this. Wait for me outside. I'll be out in a while. But, Jack's expression was stern. I've seen a lot of dead people, all sorts of corpses. Olivia wasn't willing to leave, no matter what he said. Jack said sheepishly, All right, you keep your eyes closed. I'll describe to you what I see. Okay. Olivia agreed to his suggestion. She moved behind Jack. Her gaze was focused on the patterns on Jack's black jacket. She felt his arms exert force. His arms reached out and pulled at the lever. His actions were smooth. When the body was pulled out, they were hit with a stench of decay. Olivia's stomach was already unwell. The stench made her stomach worse. She immediately covered her mouth and retched. She wanted to raise her eyes to look. But her eyes were suddenly covered by Jack's palm. His palm was warm. It blocked out all the light. Jack's voice came from next to her. Don't look. The body is a little gruesome. The article that Olivia saw Belle's body on was covered by mosaic. There were a lot of red mosaics. She knew that blood was everywhere. But it was worse than that now. The body had been sitting here for a long time. Even if it was in a freezer, the body had decomposed and looked very frightening. In the end, Jack didn't describe the body to Olivia. He felt his palm itch when her eyelashes scraped on it as she blinked. It was like his palm was running across the soft fur of some small animal. He was probably the only person that could have drifting thoughts while next to a body. Olivia said, "Have you found anything suspicious?" Jack came back to his senses and said, "Please wait for a moment." He turned Olivia's body in another direction and said, "Close your eyes and wait for a few minutes." There were only rustling sounds in the quiet room. Olivia clutched her clothes tightly and asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm pulling her clothes up." Jack's voice was calm. But Olivia was shivering in fright, even if she knew that Jack was just trying to check if Belle had aborted the child. There are stretch marks on her stomach. Normally, the optimal time for abortions is between the 1st and 3rd month of pregnancy. The baby will already be formed in the 5th to 6th month. Stretch marks only start to appear in the later months. Let me double-check if the baby was aborted. Olivia tensed and asked shakily, "How are you going to check?" Her abdomen has stretch marks but no signs of a cesarean section. "We just need to check her cervix, but it's a bit dark here. Can you help me shine a light?" Olivia almost collapsed to the floor in fright. "How do you know?" She knew these things because she was a medical student. But how did Jack know? "I've learned about dissection, so I know a little." "Keep your eyes closed. Just help me shine a light." Jack saw that Olivia was indecisive. He said in a low voice, "There's no time to get a forensic expert. We need to do it now before the body gets cremated." Olivia nodded and said, "I know, She turned over and saw the body. Her stomach became upset, and she started gagging. Olivia had seen the bodies of old deceased people in the family. But those were different compared to this gruesome body. Even though she didn't get a clear look at Belle's face, it was enough to make her gag. Jack patted her on the back to help her breathe. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry," Olivia said apologetically. "I can understand. People don't normally see dead bodies, much less decomposed ones. Why aren't you afraid?" "I got used to seeing them." Jack's voice was calm. There was a distant look in his eyes. "And living humans are more horrifying than the dead ones." Olivia didn't know what he had been through. He only looked a few years older than her, but he was shrouded in mystery. She knew that he had to have been through a lot of suffering to become like that. Maybe she wasn't the only one that was suffering in the world. Olivia pushed down the fear in her heart and turned on the flashlight. "I'll shine the light for you. Take a look quickly." "Okay." "Close your eyes and leave the rest to me," Jack ordered calmly. Olivia quickly closed her eyes to not delay the process. Jack put his hand on her wrist. His voice came from beside her. "I'm sorry." He held her wrist and led her before the body. His hand felt especially warm in the cold room. Olivia heard rustling sounds again. It was probably Jack taking off the body's pants. Luckily, the pants from the psychiatric hospital were loose. It didn't take him much effort to get it off. Although she couldn't see, Olivia could imagine Jack's progress in her mind based on the sounds she heard. She was holding the flashlight high. "I'm done," Jack told Olivia. "Don't open your eyes yet. Let me put the body back inside." Olivia asked impatiently, "How was it?" "Her cervix is torn horizontally. Normally, the cervix of someone who hasn't given birth is round, so this confirms that she did give birth to a child." "Yes." Jack left with Olivia. He also paid the funeral expenses for Belle and asked the employees to give her a proper burial. She's finally going to get a proper burial after so long. It was my fault, after all. Maybe she wouldn't have died so early if not for me. Jack shook his head and said, "That may not be the case. I found out that someone had been injecting her with prohibited drugs constantly before her death. The drugs messed with her mental state. She didn't have long to live, even if you didn't show up. She said someone took her baby. Who could it be? Could it be that her parents took her child overseas? It's impossible to say for sure now. But we got a lot of leads today. Leave the rest to me. I'll send you back first." "Oh, that's right. Here's a phone. You can use this to contact me next time." Jack handed her a phone that he had taken out of his pocket. She thought about how easily Ethan could find her phone records. She would be discovered sooner or later if she contacted Jack with her phone. "Thank you. The best compensation you can give is your help to the people of the island." Olivia went back to the escape room and left with the boys. Tom's face was pale. He looked like he had a good scare. On the other hand, Jerry looked calm. He was even supporting Tom as they walked out. "It's all faked. Were you so scared that you had to jump into the arms of a ghost?" The image of Tom doing that brought a smile to Olivia's face. "I didn't expect Tom to be so timid." "Ms. Olivia, you weren't there to see." Tom was so scared that he started to sob. It was so funny. "Shut up." The boys quickly began to fight with each other. The cheery atmosphere washed away the sadness brought on by Belle's death. A car stopped by the road. The window was rolled down to reveal Ethan's cold expression. "Get in the car." Olivia was surprised. She didn't expect Ethan to come to fetch her. Although she had entrusted everything to Jack, she was still nervous when she got in the car. She felt like Ethan would be able to see through her right away. After they got in the car, Ethan asked something he had never asked before. "Did you have fun?" "It was okay. It was a little scary." Tom was so scared he sobbed. Her expression was calm even though her words were cheery. Ethan calmly withdrew his gaze from her face. He had thought that she would become her old cheerful self if he allowed her to spend time with the boy. Their relationship wasn't the only thing that couldn't go back to the way it was. The same applied to Olivia herself. In the past, when they were sitting together, she would hold his hands and keep talking. It was like her mouth didn't need rest at all. Unlike now, she sat properly. Her fingers were holding onto the armrest. Her eyes were looking out the window. She only spoke up to answer his question. When they didn't speak, it was as if there was a mountain between them. No one spoke another word on the ride back home. The atmosphere was suffocating. Olivia could feel Ethan's gaze on her. Her heart was beating fast. She was wondering if he had found out that she ran off. After all, he had warned her last night. He was willing to help develop the island and ensure the living standards on the island were acceptable. He had only one condition, that she stop seeing Jack. She had sworn to do that not long ago. She went back on her word the very next day. She wondered what he was thinking about. He didn't speak. His gaze was like a sharp knife that was cutting her up. Olivia sighed in relief when they reached the Miller residence, and he didn't confront her. Olivia felt a pain in her wrist. Ethan pulled her toward him. She fell into his embrace. Her palms were pushing against his chest weakly. She looked up at him in confusion. There was a hint of bewilderment in her eyes. What? Ethan frowned and said in a low voice, Olivia, I said I'm going to the Carltons for dinner. Olivia nodded and said, I know that. Don't worry. I won't bother you with calls asking you to come back. She recalled how she used to be. She developed severe mental issues due to feelings of anxiety. She would bombard him with calls if he didn't get home by 6 p.m. Her calls would annoy him so much that he would turn off his phone. Then, she would reheat the food a few times. She would also pace around the house nervously. She found that version of herself quite detestable. It wasn't just Ethan. Even she herself felt disgusted when thinking about it. She was still Mrs. Miller back then. Now, she had already come to terms with her position. Naturally, she would not stand in Ethan's way anymore. In the past, she felt like even the air was holding her captive. She often felt like she was suffocating. But now that she didn't care for him as much, she felt like she had regained freedom. Ethan was the one who was uncomfortable now. There was a time when she was so tense that she wouldn't allow him to socialize normally with others. Whenever she heard that he was going out to eat, she would grab his hand with an anxious expression and beg him to keep her company. But now, she looked like she didn't care at all. Her face was completely calm. He tightened his grip on her wrist unknowingly. The pain caused Olivia to frown. It hurts. What are you doing? I'm not stopping you, Olivia said in an annoyed tone. Ethan said in a deep voice, are you not going to care even if I sleep elsewhere? Olivia asked without hesitation, are you not coming back tonight? Ethan could sense a hint of joy in her serious expression. He was taken aback. Did she feel happy that he threatened not to come home? Olivia did feel a little happy about that. In the few nights that she had slept with him, there were a few times he almost lost control. No matter what he felt toward her, all she wanted was to stay as far away from him as possible. Ethan grabbed her chin and rubbed her lips with his thumb. You don't want me to come home? Olivia thought about how annoying she used to be. She said with a serious expression, you're Marina's fiancé now, and your engagement party is approaching. You must not fight with her because of me. And if rumors spread about us, it would also impact the Miller Group's stock price. Olivia tapped his hand and assured him, don't worry. I will not pester you like I used to. I promise to let you experience a peaceful night. Olivia thought that Ethan shouldn't mess with her anymore since she made such a sincere promise. He might even feel like she was being very mature. She thought her words would make Ethan happy. But his expression grew angrier. His grip on her chin also tightened. Was she not sincere enough? Olivia furrowed her eyebrows in thought. Ethan couldn't see any signs of reluctance or sadness in her eyes. He withdrew his hand and said, "As you wish. I'll be staying over at the Carltons tonight." "All right. I'll go back in for dinner now." Olivia opened the door and got out of the car as soon as he loosened his grip. Ethan was not able to detect any hint of sadness on her face before she left. Ethan watched her leave and thought she didn't feel the slightest bit of sadness with how eagerly she left. Did she really get over him completely? Their divorce was less than 3 months ago. Kelvin saw Ethan's cold expression through the rearview mirror. He asked carefully, "Mr. Miller, should we depart now?" Ethan took a deep breath and asked, "What did she do today? Who did she meet?" "Nothing much. She went to the art exhibit for a while. Then, she went shopping. She also went to some amusement facilities for young people for the whole afternoon. She didn't meet anyone." Ethan frowned and said, "Watch her closely." Ethan would have thought that she fell for someone else. But he had confirmed that nothing happened between her and the man on the island. He didn't really understand himself. His feelings overcame his hatred for her. But as time went on, he felt like it became harder for him to leave Olivia. Olivia was the complete opposite. She no longer had any feelings of attachment to him. There was no longer a twinkle in her eyes when she looked at him. He lowered his head to look at his phone. When they were still close, she never stopped calling or messaging him. Back then, he would take some time to reply, no matter how busy he was. Even when their relationship deteriorated, and he treated her coldly on purpose, she would still send him a dozen messages every day. Unlike now, she didn't call or send him any messages throughout the entire day. Ethan realized he was no longer the most important person to her. He felt like someone was grabbing his heart tightly. How would he have known that Olivia started to walk on eggshells around him? She was afraid that anything she did would anger him. She only hoped to stay as far away from him as possible so that she wouldn't incur his wrath. She knew her place now. She knew she no longer had the right to order him around. Her heart had been tormented by Ethan and Marina over the 2 years. No matter how much conviction she had, it was all gone. Olivia went straight to her bedroom. She didn't even eat dinner. She could see Belle's body when she closed her eyes and could only hope that Jack could uncover the truth as soon as possible. She went to sleep after showering. She had no idea Ethan was checking his phone every now and again. He thought that Olivia couldn't possibly feel nothing after he said he would be staying with the Carltons tonight. After a few rounds of alcohol on the dinner table, Chris slammed his glass hard on the table. He was a soldier who survived the battlefields. He had an intimidating presence and was exuding coldness. Chris, who was usually reserved, said coldly, "If you don't want to have dinner with us, just get out." Chloe quickly held his hand. She tried to de-escalate the situation with a smile. "Are you listening to yourself? Ethan has finally come to visit. Why are you giving him this attitude? Do you think you're talking to one of your fresh recruits in the army?" She then looked at Ethan with a smile. "Ethan, please don't blame him for that. He is used to being in the army. He still thinks of himself as a soldier even though he's been out of the army for so long. Marina also chipped in, "Dad, please understand that Ethan is usually very busy. He might have work that he has to deal with." In the past, Chris was happy about Ethan. But he started to feel uncomfortable when he found out that Olivia was Ethan's ex-wife. They were in the same circle. Chris knew exactly how many people Ethan broke regulations and mobilized to save Olivia and Connor. The men in the Carlton family all had fiery tempers. Chris said, "It's been more than a year since Marina gave birth to your child. But you had to insist on an engagement party before the marriage. Not only has the engagement been delayed repeatedly, you haven't even registered the marriage. You need to let me know today. Are you marrying my daughter or not?" "Dad, you don't have to be so aggressive. We're all family here. We can talk about it slowly," Marina said. "That's right. Calm down. You're scaring him," Chloe added. Chloe and Marina were on the same front on this matter. Otto Carlton, who had not spoken a word, suddenly slammed his spoon on the table. "Enough! All of you shut up!" As soon as he spoke up, Chloe shivered slightly. She didn't even dare to look him in the eye. "I don't mind that you've been married once. Every man had several women when they were young. But you've already divorced. You should break up with the past cleanly. Why are you still keeping in contact with her?" Was old. But his voice was resounding. "Tell me, what do you think my granddaughter is?" Everyone's gaze fell on Ethan. He put away his phone calmly after stealing one last glance at the screen. There were still no messages from Olivia. Ethan sat up straight. He did not falter when faced with the two leaders of the Carlton family, nor did he lose any ground to them, even if he was younger than them. "Mr. Carlton and Mr. Carlton Sr., I promised that I would marry Marina. So, I will do it. And as for Olivia, you should already know her circumstances." Ethan's voice was emotionless. The Carltons couldn't tell if he was hiding his feelings. "The Fordham family is bankrupt. She saved Connor's life by herself. In terms of relations, she is my ex-wife. In terms of reason, she saved Connor's life. Should I just stand by and do nothing?" His words were impeccable. Otto grunted and said, "There are a lot of ways to take care of someone. But I've heard that you've been living under the same roof recently. You can't guarantee that you two won't reignite the flame. The Carltons are not nobodies. I don't care how much of a playboy you were. But now, you have to give my granddaughter an explanation." Chris chipped in and said, "You two are getting married anyway. You should live together with Marina from now on." Ethan wanted to say something. Chris and Otto both had their eyes on him. Otto said forcefully, "Young people these days care about the dates. February 14th is Valentine's Day. Register your marriage with Marina on that day." Chris and Otto's unrelenting barrage of words gave Ethan no chance for rebuttals. Moreover, his marriage with Marina was practically set in stone. Marina knew that Ethan's feelings for Olivia were complicated recently. She grasped her sleeve tightly. She was afraid that Ethan would go back on his word. Ethan raised his glass and said calmly, "Okay." Marina sighed in relief. A smile reappeared on her face. Gramps, Dad. I told you that Ethan would not let me down. Otto looked at Ethan deeply and said, "It better stay that way." Chris also added, "Olivia is Chloe's daughter. She can be considered part of the Carlton family. We'll take good care of her if you don't. I'll take care of things on her end. I don't want to see you contacting her starting tomorrow." Ethan's fingers tightened around his glass. His eyes darkened. But he didn't say anything. He originally thought he was only telling Olivia that he wouldn't go home because he was angry. He didn't expect it to come true. Now, he couldn't even go home even if he wanted to. He was stuck in the Carlton residence. He was forced to sleep in the same room as Marina. It was getting late. Marina got out of the bath and changed into silky and revealing pajamas. She slowly walked toward Ethan. Ethan didn't turn to face her. Even as he sat there, his back remained unbent. He had one hand on the armrest, and the other was holding his phone tightly. He had a worried expression on his face. Marina could clearly sense that Ethan's attitude toward her had changed. She even spoke in a cautious tone. "Ethan, are you waiting for an important call?" Ethan didn't even raise his head. "Yet." "Ethan, it's getting late. You should go wash up." Marina said with a blush, "I'll wait for you here." In the dark of the night, an owl flew over the trees. It was hooting. The Miller residence has been around for a long time. Its surrounding environment was great, and it was normal for there to be wild animals from time to time. Olivia had just fallen asleep. She hadn't gotten into a deep sleep yet. She immediately opened her eyes when she heard the owl hooting. Normally, Ethan would already be home at this hour, but he wasn't home yet. Madame Burgess hadn't been staying in recently, too. She was the only one in the enormous house. The room was in complete darkness. There were only some warm yellow lights in the yard. She saw a large owl as soon as she opened her eyes. It was perched on top of the tree outside the window. Its eyes shone eerily. The image of Belle's body appeared in Olivia's mind again. Once she thought about it, it was as if Belle's body filled the room. She even imagined the scene of Belle jumping off the building as if she had experienced it herself. She felt the wind howling in her ears and her body falling onto the floor heavily. She saw her blood all over the floor. She screamed in terror. She was covered in cold sweat. At this moment, she regretted not trying hard to keep Ethan home. She reached for her phone on the nightstand and was about to hit the dial button. Then, she came back to her senses. What was she doing? She turned on the projector and picked out a TV series. Then, she got off the bed to get some food. She waited in the bedroom. She was thinking that Ethan should be home by now. Madame Burgess had told her that he had never spent his nights away from home. She thought that he would come home if she waited. She waited until her eyes were sore. The owl was still perched on the tree, looking in the direction of the bedroom. It was already 4 a.m. One thing was clear to her: he was not coming home tonight. Olivia thought that she no longer cared. But at this moment she realized she couldn't cut Ethan out of her life completely. She wasn't able to let go of the love she had for so many years in a couple of months. She hugged her legs and rested her head on her knees. Her head was filled with the image of Ethan and Marina sharing a bed. It pained her to think about that. She did not sleep for the entire night. She stayed up until the owl left. She looked at the cold and empty bed beside her, and she gave herself a self-deprecating smile. Her phone on the nightstand rang. She quickly accepted the call. Chloe's voice came from the other end. She kept insisting that Olivia go over to the Carltons. She said that she had made Olivia's favorite breakfast and that Chris wanted to meet Olivia. Olivia hung up emotionlessly. But her body got out of the bed subconsciously. She hadn't eaten breakfast made by her mother in many years. Chloe, in her memories, was a kind and loving person. She was a great cook. She rarely cooked, but every time she did, it would leave Olivia deeply impressed. Before she knew it, Olivia had arrived at the Carlton residence. The servants welcomed her courteously. Chloe looked as elegant and dignified as always. Olivia could see that Chris had treated her well. The few times Olivia met her, she had a smile on her face, unlike when she was with Jeff. She never smiled much when she was married to Jeff. Chloe's love and indifference were both reflected on her face. When she was married to Jeff, she was cold toward Jeff and Olivia. She only ever cooked when she was in a good mood. Olivia was able to sense the tension between her parents at a young age. So, she tried her best to be obedient even if she loved Chloe's cooking and wanted Chloe to attend her school's parents' meeting, she would never bring it up. She used to think that if she got better grades and was more obedient, her parents would get along more. And that they would bring her to the theme park on her birthday, but in the end, all she got was her mom leaving her. Chloe saw Olivia standing at the entrance. She quickly came over to hold her hand. "Liv is here. Come over quickly. Are you hungry? I've made breakfast." Chris was not too uptight for once. He said with a smile, "Yeah, come and have a taste. Your mother made these just for you." "Olivia, I was also shocked by what happened to your father. If you don't mind, you can treat me as your father. The Caro residence can also be your home." Olivia could tell that Chris wasn't lying. But she wasn't moved. There are things that she just can't get over, even if she spent her whole life trying to do XO. After she was pulled to the dining table, Chloe put a bowl of spaghetti carbonara in front of her. Chloe then said, "Eat up. I remember that you loved to eat spaghetti carbonara when you were young." Olivia didn't move. She has loved spicy food since she was young. Her favorite breakfast was spaghetti arrabbiata, not spaghetti carbonara. Chloe proceeded to bring some more food to Olivia. Sandwiches, deviled eggs, and stuffed mushrooms. Olivia smirked and put down her cutleries. "If you don't have love for me, you don't have to pretend like you do. You don't like these? I should have remembered properly," Chloe muttered. Chris clenched his fists, cleared his throat, and said, "These are all Marina's favorites." His words were like a sharp blade piercing Olivia's heart. "Look at that! What a loving mother!" She remembered all of her stepdaughter's preferences, yet she couldn't even remember what her biological daughter liked to eat. Olivia wouldn't have felt so bad if Chloe at least remembered one dish she liked. She stood up and turned to leave, but noticed the door of the first floor's bedroom opening. Ethan and Marina walked out of the door one after the other. Olivia had known that the marriage between Ethan and Marina was set in stone. But knowing and seeing were two entirely different things. She stared at Ethan, who walked out of the bedroom. Their eyes met. A hint of surprise appeared in Ethan's eyes. He opened his mouth like he wanted to explain something. But nothing came out in the end. Chloe said, "Ethan, did you sleep well last night? If you're not used to the bed, I can get someone to make custom bedding for you too. After all, you'll be sleeping here regularly after you get married. Treat this like your own home. You can let me know if you need anything." Marina also started to play her part as a loving daughter. She said with a smile, "Thanks for being so considerate, Mom. It was true that we didn't sleep well last night." A trace of shyness flickered across her face. It was clear that she was implying something else. Olivia finally understood why she was invited over. It wasn't that Chloe missed her. She intentionally called her over to intimidate her and scare her away from Ethan by making her see the truth. It was so ironic. Her biological mother was all smiles when talking to her stepdaughter. She remembered all of her stepdaughter's preferences. But she couldn't remember her own daughter's favorite breakfast. Maybe her birth was an accident. Olivia used to think that there must have been some reason why Chloe mistreated her. She thought all mothers loved their daughters. But now she knew that Chloe was not like other mothers. It was because she didn't love her. That's why she couldn't remember her preferences. Marina was the daughter of the man she loved. That's why she had to find ways to gain her favor. Olivia looked at their family of 4. She was the only outsider here from the start. She realized that Ethan's betrayal was not the most painful thing. The most painful thing was the mother she had been missing for more than 10 years coming back and destroying the illusion she had of her. Before she could recover from that, her mother had hurt her once again. She did it repeatedly. It was like she kept cutting into her wound before it could heal. Olivia withdrew her gaze from them expressionlessly. She couldn't stand the sight of these people before her. "Congratulations to you, Mrs. Carlton. May your wish finally come true. Since you already started a new life, don't come looking for me anymore." Olivia turned around decisively and was about to walk away. Chloe anxiously walked up to her and grabbed her hand. "Liv, you're mistaken about me. All I am trying to do now is to make peace between you and Marina. As Chris said, we're all family." Olivia said with a cold smile, "I am a Fordham, not a Carlton." "Liv, why are you still as stubborn as before? Why can't you be more forgiving?" Chloe reprimanded Olivia with a stern expression. "You wouldn't be divorced if you managed your marriage properly. But new Ethan is already with Marina. You need to accept this reality. Stop holding on to the past." Olivia was so angry she could feel her stomach starting to hurt. Her head was also throbbing. She almost thought that she was hearing things. Was that something a real mother would say? Olivia clenched her fingers and forced herself to calm down. She looked Chloe in the eye and said slowly, "So, from your perspective, I am the one that's clinging on to Ethan? Everything is my fault." Chloe answered without hesitation, "Am I wrong? I've heard that you're still living together. Liv, do you understand the concept of a divorce? You're still young, so stop this now. If not, you'll bring trouble to yourself. You'll also cause Ethan and Marina to be mocked. There should only be 2 people in a healthy relationship." Olivia was no longer able to tell if the pain came from her heart or her stomach. She felt like ants were gnawing at her, causing her pain all over. Olivia held in her sadness. She had so much she wanted to say, but instead, she smiled and said, "So that's how I am in your eyes." "Mother, don't yell at Olivia. She's still young, so it's natural for her to make mistakes. We should tolerate each other's mistakes since we're a family. I'm okay with it." At this moment, Marina's display of generosity was a sharp contrast to Olivia's pettiness. Chloe said with a righteous tone, "Don't worry, Marina. I gave birth to Liv. I will give you a satisfactory explanation. I won't allow her to come between you and Ethan anymore." Olivia felt like all her organs were bleeding. She even felt the taste of blood in her mouth. But she didn't want to show her weakness to these people. So she held it back. The taste of blood was spreading in her mouth. She was about to speak when Ethan said coldly, "She wasn't in the wrong. I was the one who wanted to take care of her." "Ethan, I know you're a passionate and loyal person. You don't have to lie for her sake. She has been a liar since she was young. I know her too well. She'll do anything to get what she wants." Olivia was clenching her fingers so hard her knuckles were pale. Even the corner of her clothes had been distorted by her grip. She didn't want to explain herself anymore. It was true. She did pretend to be sick once when she was young. That was because a classmate of hers said that when she was sick, her mother, who was usually busy, took a day off to stay home. She would take care of her gently and make her anything she wanted to eat. That was why she pretended to be sick. All she wanted was her mother's attention. If only her mother would put her palm on her forehead. If only her mother would look at her with concern. If only her mother would ask her if she was well. She would have been satisfied for a long time. But her childish preteens was easily exposed. She didn't give up. She spent a whole night in a cold bath. She developed a high fever the next day. She thought that her mother would definitely care for her gently. She wondered if her mother would bake her a cake. She even decided on the cake she wanted to have. A teddy bear cream cake. But when Chloe went to her bed, she looked down at the flushed face. She said coldly, "Why are you pretending to be sick again? Why are you so naughty? Send her to school, Victor." "But Mrs. Fordham, she doesn't look so good. Maybe she is really sick." "How could she be sick? She is such a healthy child. She's definitely pretending. You don't have to send her to school today. Let her walk there herself." Chloe left after she said that. She didn't care even when Olivia was calling out to her with her hoarse voice, telling her that she wasn't pretending. She walked away as decisively as the day she left for good. She didn't turn back even once. She would have known that Olivia wasn't pretending if she put her palm on her forehead, but she wasn't even willing to do such a simple thing. When she was walking, Olivia fell into the snow. She asked in a whisper when Victor carried her up, "Mr. Victor, do you think my mother loves me?" Her words were heart-wrenching to Victor. So much so that he almost couldn't speak. "Ms. Olivia, there isn't a mother in the world who doesn't love her children." Olivia's face lit up. "Is that so? I didn't lie to her this time. Can you please tell her that I am really sick this time? I really want to eat the teddy bear cream cake that she makes." But what happened was Chloe went out in the morning. She went for a beauty treatment, had afternoon tea, and attended a music concert. Victor called her. She replied coldly, "Why are you telling me? I am not a doctor. Get her a doctor if she's sick." Olivia was in a daze from the fever. She kept calling for cake in her dreams. She kept calling out for the cake until the fever subsided. She looked at the snow falling outside. Victor brought her a teddy bear cake. She smiled happily. Mom must have made this right. Yup. She found out later that the cake was made by the chef. Her mother did not take care of her. She didn't even ask about her. Time passed. Olivia watched as the faces of her mother in the past and present overlapped. Truthfully, her mother wore a cold expression and was harsh to her. Olivia heard from her classmates that most parents liked children with good grades. So, she worked hard to improve her grades just to see her mother smile. She was more hardworking than anyone else. She had always been one of the best students in her class since she was a kid. She always thought that her mother would pay more attention to her if she worked harder. If she dropped to second place, she would work hard without rest to get back to the top of the class. She did not expect her mother to see her persistence as nothing to be proud of. Neither did she expect her mother to think that she was stubborn and underhanded because of her hard work. Olivia suddenly laughed. Her laugh was bone-chilling. Ethan frowned. He wanted to put in a good word for her. Chloe continued to say, "Liv, Marina is a good woman. It wasn't easy for her to have her own family. I beg you. Can you just let Ethan go? I don't want to see Marina sad anymore. This is the first time that I've heard someone who interfered in a marriage get called a good woman. Mrs. Carlton, have you ever thought about how she came between me and Ethan while you were feeling bad for her? I will not comment on what happened in the past because I don't know what happened. But since you're divorced now, you should respect each other's boundaries. You are only 21 years old. I can send you to a school overseas. You still have a long life ahead of you." Chloe reached out to touch Olivia's face. "You're my daughter. I truly hope that you can also find your own happiness." Olivia reacted strongly and pushed Chloe's hand away. "Don't touch me." She was like a hedgehog. She had curled up in a ball and raised her spikes. If she knew this was how her mother was going to be, would she still have hoped for her return for so many years? "Mrs. Carlton, you only need to pursue your own happiness. As for me, you've never loved me. Why act like you feel guilty? It's disgusting. Liv, I'm still your mother. How could you talk to me like this? Your father must have failed to raise you properly. Keep my father out of your mouth. You're the one person in this world who has no right to talk about him. Mrs. Carlton, stop trying to morally blackmail me. What I do with the rest of my life has nothing to do with you." Olivia glared at her and said, "The biggest mistake I've made in my life was to come to you and ask for your help." Olivia closed her eyes. She could see herself chasing after Chloe throughout the years. She never did understand why her mother was always unhappy. She always thought that her mother might be happier if she was more obedient. Even after Chloe had left for years, Olivia would find excuses for her whenever she missed her. She thought that Chloe only left because she didn't love Jeff. She thought that Chloe must have her reasons for leaving her daughter behind. When she hadn't reunited with Chloe, her image of her stayed as a gentle and kind woman. She thought that Chloe would miss her as much as she missed her. Now, it would seem like their emotions were not on the same wavelength. Olivia took a deep breath. She swallowed the bloody taste in her throat once again. When she opened her eyes, they were clear. Olivia said slowly, "Miss Parker, Mrs. Carlton. I hereby sever all ties with you. Just pretend like you never had a daughter. I'll pretend I never had a mother." Chloe slapped Olivia in the face. "Olivia Fordham, are you listening to yourself? Why did I give birth to such a rebellious daughter? Why are you so rude?" Chloe clutched her chest and stared at Olivia angrily. "How did you turn out like this?" Chris quickly came over and held Chloe's hand. He took her side because she was the woman he loved. "Olivia, your mother is just looking out for you. Do you know she has heart problems? You shouldn't anger her like that. Come apologize to her." Normally, Marina wouldn't have cared about what happened to Chloe. But Olivia was here. She wouldn't give up on a chance to disgust Olivia. She held Chloe and pointed her finger at Olivia, saying, "Miss Fordham, I know you blame me for taking Ethan from you. But no matter what, you shouldn't anger your mother so much. Mother, are you okay? Butler, go get her a glass of water." Olivia thought that there must be something wrong with the world. She was the one who got slapped. But she was also the one being reprimanded. Chloe's slap was powerful. It messed up Olivia's hair. Her hair covered half her face. Blood began dripping to the floor from her chin. Ethan was the first one to notice and went over to her. "Are you okay?" Ethan said with concern. Olivia slowly raised her head. Her nose was bleeding profusely. It was not a regular nosebleed. The blood was flowing endlessly. Ethan panicked at the sight of the blood. "Raise your head." Ethan quickly took a few pieces of tissues and stuck them into her nostril. But the tissues were unable to keep the blood back. They were quickly soaked in blood. Chloe was shocked. She ran over in a panic and said, "What's happening, Olivia? I thought I didn't hit your nose." She wanted to hand Olivia some tissues, but Olivia slapped her hand away. "Don't touch me!" Olivia said to Chris, "Mr. Carlton, may I use your toilet?" "Go ahead," Chris said urgently. He regretted butting into their argument. It was supposed to be between mother and daughter. Olivia went into the toilet alone and closed the door. The blood just flowed profusely into the basin when she lowered her head. It was not only her nose. There was also blood in her throat. She threw up some blood and watched as it swirled in the basin. Was she dying? Ethan stood at the door. His eyebrows were furrowed. He thought she should be fine. He had only gotten her to do a full-body medical examination recently. But the amount of blood that flowed from her nose clearly exceeded that of a normal nosebleed. It was gushing out. The sight of it was alarming. Chloe came back to her senses at the sight of Ethan's worried expression. She said, "You don't have to worry. She has always loved pretending to be sick." Marina added, "Mother, I didn't know she was so manipulative that she would use such a method to get attention." That's right. She has been a cunning one since she was young. Her father doted on her too much. That's why she's become such a spoiled brat now. Chloe then looked at Ethan and said, Ethan, don't be fooled by her. She has always been in good health. It's impossible for her to bleed so much from a slap. I didn't even touch her nose. Chris said, all right, stop talking. How can a nosebleed be faked? What can't be fake these days? Chloe retorted. Ethan glared at Chloe and said, I'm curious. Is Olivia really your daughter? Chloe paused for a bit and said, of course. Really? Could have fooled me. I thought Marina was your biological daughter. Ethan's words were incredibly sarcastic. Chloe felt insulted, but she did not know how to respond. She had wanted to say something, but the door was unlocked. Olivia walked out. There was a large, mottled stain of blood on her chest because she hadn't been able to avoid it in time. She had temporarily plugged her nose with tissues. Her slender face looked frighteningly pale. She looked like she'd be blown over by the wind. Chloe did not feel guilty at all. She said, tell me, are you pretending to be sick? I didn't even touch your nose just now. Even now, her first thought wasn't to show concern for her daughter but to question her. Olivia didn't want to waste her words on Chloe. She pushed her to the side and headed out. She realized that she shouldn't have desired something like a mother's love from the start. Ethan grabbed her wrist tightly and said, wait here, I'll get someone to bring you to the hospital. Olivia stopped in her tracks. She looked at Ethan's concerned expression. She might have been happy in the past, but all she had for him now was endless hate. In principle, Ethan and Chloe were very similar people. There was almost no difference. Both of them had nothing for her, but they pretended to care. She stood straight and looked at Ethan seriously. What if I want you to take me to the hospital? The words were like a shockwave. It shocked everyone. Ethan frowned and said, Olivia, stop messing around. Olivia's throat was still filled with the stench of blood. She smiled and said, Ethan, if I said you have to choose between me and Marina, who would you choose? Chris stared at Ethan intensely. Even Otto appeared out of nowhere. Otto slammed his cane on the floor and said, that's right, that's what I want to ask too. Ethan, will you leave with her or stay here? You have to decide between your old flame and new love. Ethan finally understood that Olivia was only biding her time when she acted docile these 2 days. She bared her fangs now. Chris also chimed in, think carefully before you speak. If you choose Olivia, I will announce that your wedding is cancelled. Dad. Marina stomped her foot. She was the only one who knew the truth. She didn't want things to end up the way it was now. Shut up. He has been thinking of another woman before your marriage even began. If you really got married to him, there's no telling what would happen. We're doing this for your own good. Otto continued, all right, since everyone's here. I need an answer from you today. If you choose Olivia, I will make things easy for you. A man should be responsible for his actions. But if you choose my granddaughter and continue your relationship with her, then don't blame me for whatever I do to you. Everyone's gaze fell on Ethan. Who would he choose? Ethan had no choice when everyone was looking at him. He looked at Olivia and said, I have no plans of cancelling my engagement with Marina. Marina swallowed nervously. She quickly looked at Ethan and asked, Ethan, does that mean that you pick me? Ethan nodded. It was like a huge stone had been lifted off Marina's chest. She ran to Ethan excitedly and wrapped her hands around his arm. I knew you loved me, Ethan. Dad, Grandpa, did you hear that? The anger on Otto's face subsided. You better mean what you say. I'll be counting on you to take care of my daughter from now on. Chris patted Ethan on the shoulder. Olivia had expected this outcome. But even if she had known, she still felt a freezing chill in her heart when she heard it. She pulled her hand away from Ethan and said, I respect your decision, Ethan. Ethan watched as she left. He had no choice since Otto was there. Chloe thought about it for a while. Then, she went after Olivia. Olivia straightened her back as she left. She was like a lone wolf dragging her hurt body to a secluded area to heal. Liv. Chloe caught up to Olivia. I want to talk with you. Olivia looked at Chloe, who was panting. She knew this woman better than she ever did after today. She decided that she would not hold any unrealistic expectations of this woman anymore. Don't worry, Mrs. Carlton. I will not bother your son-in-law again, Olivia said coldly. Chloe blocked her way and said, Liv, give me 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Olivia looked at her coldly. You've already achieved your goal. The person you need to watch is Ethan, not me. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. Liv. Olivia tasted blood in her throat again. She frowned and pushed Chloe aside. She quickened her steps to get away from her. Chloe called out to her from behind her, then she fainted. Olivia turned back and saw that. She instinctively wanted to go check on her. It would seem like she wasn't lying about her heart condition. She noticed that Chris had come after Chloe. So she turned and left quickly. She then went to a deserted corner and began to throw up blood. Olivia leaned against a tree before slowly sliding down. She wiped the blood on the corner of her mouth with her hand and laughed at herself. She was such a failure. Throughout her life, she hadn't been able to keep anyone by her side. Her family and her lover all went to Marina's side instead. The thought of that made her chest hurt so much she almost couldn't breathe. Then, she knelt on the ground with a hand holding onto a branch. She kept throwing up blood. She looked at the puddle of blood. Her first thought was that it was lucky that she didn't embarrass herself before the Carltons. She hadn't eaten anything. Her stomach felt like it was burning up after she threw up several times. It was unfortunate that she forgot to bring her medication with her. She had been in a rush. She curled up into a ball under the tree. Her consciousness began to fade. She wanted to call for an ambulance on her phone. She didn't want to die. She couldn't die today. Her eyesight was getting fuzzy, and her fingers were trembling. She slowly inputted the numbers into the phone. She only needed to tap on the dial button. But she lost consciousness before it could happen. Darkness consumed her. She fell onto the ground with a thud. In the last flashes of her consciousness, she thought she saw Ethan driving away in a car. She could also hear footsteps. A person came before her and sighed. The person then crouched down and lifted Olivia up. Olivia thought she was a goner. She had begun to recover after the chemotherapy, even if it left her body weak at first. Maybe it was because she was in a better mood when she was on the island. She felt like she was slowly getting better and had not vomited blood in a while. She didn't know if it was because she got emotional. But she had never vomited so much blood before. It was like red was all she saw. She fainted despite her best efforts to stay conscious. When she opened her eyes again, she immediately smelled disinfectant. She noticed the walls around her were white. Her stomach seemed to be better. It didn't hurt as much. "Olivia, you're awake. Are you feeling better?" A familiar male voice came from beside her. She looked toward the voice. It was Colin, whom she met on the cruise ship. His eyes were filled with concern. Olivia had just regained consciousness. She said weakly, "Did you save me?" "That's right. I saw you on the side of the road as I was heading out. You had blood all over you. I was scared to death." Colin scratched his head and said with an embarrassed expression, "I'm sorry, Olivia. I wanted to apologize to you for what happened on the ship. But I couldn't reach your phone." "It's okay. I understand. It was just an accident." Olivia looked at the needle in her arm. Half of the liquid was still in the bag. "That's right. Is Mr. Fordham doing well?" "I've just returned from overseas. I wanted to visit him, but I didn't want to intrude." Olivia's eyes darkened at the mention of Jeff. "He isn't doing too good. He hasn't regained consciousness yet." "I appreciate the sentiment. Visitation is not allowed yet." "I understand. You have to stay strong, Olivia. Everything will be better." Colin consoled Olivia. He then asked, "Are you sick? I saw a lot of blood on your clothes, but I didn't see any wounds." Olivia smiled weakly and said, "I'm fine. I accidentally bumped my nose and had a nosebleed earlier." "Did it look scary?" Colin patted himself on the chest and said, "The bloody stains were scary. But I'm relieved that you're okay. Don't worry." "Of course, I'm okay." Olivia reached for her phone on the nightstand. She realized that it had shut down. She knew she shouldn't have said those words at the Carltons today. She knew she crossed the line with Ethan. Olivia understood that she shouldn't provoke him. She risked disrupting her own plans by doing that. But she was just too angry. She wasn't able to hold it in. She knew that Ethan probably wouldn't let her off this time. Casual date is just a click away. Sign up and start meeting women in your area today. Colin handed her a power bank and said, "Olivia, you need to stay the night for observation. You must be hungry after sleeping for so long. I'll go buy you something to eat." Olivia nodded and said, "Thanks. No need to thank me." Colin smiled brightly. He walked out the door with brisk steps. A nurse came in to help her remove the needle in her hand. She said with an envious look, "Miss, your boyfriend is so good to you. He had been taking care of you the whole time you were out. I've never seen a more caring man than him." Olivia was taken aback. She explained with a smile, "He's not my boyfriend. He's my younger brother. I'm sorry. I was mistaken." The nurse stuck her tongue out and removed the needle gently. Miss, your brother has booked a few medical examinations for you. It's getting late. The examinations will be scheduled for tomorrow. Rest well tonight, and no food or drinks after 10 o'clock p.m. There's no need. I've already done medical examinations before. It's just a nosebleed today. I only fainted because I have been pretty frail. Okay. But I still recommend that you do some in-depth examinations. After all, many things can cause a nosebleed. Your results from before might not reflect your current health. Some conditions can worsen pretty rapidly. Thanks, I'll think about it. Olivia got off the bed and freshened up a bit. She saw that Colin hadn't returned yet. She went to the corridor and wanted to pay for her hospital bills. She ran into Chloe when she stepped out of her room. She was also wearing patient attire. The first thought Olivia had when she saw Chloe was that they were fated to meet each other. But only as strangers. As she turned to leave, Chloe caught up to her and said, "Just give me a moment, Liv. I have something I need to tell you." Olivia didn't stop. In fact, she sped up. Chloe ran after her. Then, Olivia only stopped when she heard a nurse say anxiously, "Mrs. Carlton, slow down. Your heart can't take much more of this." Olivia stopped in her tracks when she heard that. Chloe finally managed to grab her hand. She said while panting, "Please, just give me a moment, Liv." Chloe looked pale and weak without makeup on. Even her lips were slightly bluish. "Mrs. Carlton, I thought there was nothing left to say between us." 5 minutes, Liv, give me 5 minutes. Please, Chloe begged. The nurse standing next to them said, "Mrs. Carlton has a heart condition, miss. Please do not agitate her anymore." Olivia was put on the spot. She couldn't walk away now. "All right, 5 minutes." She walked into her room. Chloe followed behind her. They each sat on a corner of the couch. Casual date is just a click away. Chloe moved next to Olivia and took her hand. Olivia struggled for a bit. She then gave up because she didn't want to risk agitating Chloe. "Seems like Chris isn't treating you that well. You had good health when you were with Dad." Olivia deduced that Chloe developed a heart condition due to mental stress. There were only 2 other ways she could have gotten a heart condition. One was that she was born with it. The other was unhealthy habits. Neither of those could have been the case for Chloe. Chloe shook her head and said, "Chris is good to me. Really, really good to me." Chloe didn't want to make Olivia feel uncomfortable. She quickly changed the subject, "I left you when you were young. But there were some things that your father probably hasn't told you. Don't you want to know why I left him, Liv?" Olivia's other hand grasped the couch tightly. "Wasn't it because you fell for another man? Let me tell you a story, Liv." Chloe's story wasn't mind-blowing. It was more melodramatic. Chloe and Chris had known each other since they were kids. The Carltons were a family of soldiers. Chris was also obligated to join the army. He began to take part in covert missions when he was a teenager. He promised Chloe that he would be back to marry her once the situation got better. But news of him dying on the battlefield was spread. Chloe was heartbroken. The Parker family promised her to Jeff. Jeff gave her 3 years to forget about Chris. And so Jeff waited. Chloe could not betray his kindness. She got married to him under the pressure of her family. But she had only ever loved Chris. It was the same, be it 3 years or 7 years. Chris was the love of her life. But just as she was prepared to accept her life as it was, she heard the news about Chris. He was saved by someone when he was hurt. But he had temporarily lost his memory. He married the woman who took care of him after his injuries healed. By the time Chloe heard the news, Chris already had a child of school age. That was a blemish on their love. It was something that Chloe couldn't get over. Even after she also had a child of her own, she was still hung up about the past. She couldn't forget about the feelings she had. These years, she had been neglecting everything around her. That was why she developed a heart condition. Chris' wife later died in an accident. He also recovered his memory. Chloe didn't want to have any regrets. So, she went to him without considering any consequences. Olivia laughed so hard that tears came to her eyes. Am I supposed to clap for your epic story of undying love? Olivia had misunderstood. She thought Chloe felt guilty after seeing her bleed. She finally realized. This middle-aged woman had all the love she wanted since she was young. Her life was all smooth sailing. Everyone around her doted on her. And she had only experienced hardships in her love life. That was why she was still living in her own world at this age. That was why she came to talk about how hard her life had been. Mrs. Carlton, can't you live without Chris Carlton? Chloe was crying as she told her story. She described the missed opportunities and misunderstandings between her and Chris as incredibly sad and painful. She didn't know how to react when she heard what Olivia said. There were still tears in her eyes. She looked comical as she tried to keep the tears from falling. It was as if she was wondering why Olivia didn't feel any compassion for her. She had such a sad life. She began to wonder if Olivia was truly heartless. Mrs. Carlton, losing Chris might have been the worst thing that ever happened to you. But do you know what it means to have a family destroyed? Do you know how helpless I felt when my family left me one by one? Do you know how much pain I felt when I went from being a princess to a nobody that anyone could spit on? Olivia smirked and said, in your world, a mosquito sting requires medical attention. How would you ever understand how I feel? I have to try my best just to stay alive. Olivia was envious of her mother. Chloe was the kind of person who only lived for herself. Nothing was more important than her feelings. Not even Chris, who had always loved her. Not even her own daughter, who had been chasing after her and begging for the smallest bit of attention. All these can be sacrificed for the sake of her pursuit of love. Chloe didn't understand what Olivia was thinking. She thought Olivia would understand her after knowing her story. She didn't expect her to be so emotionless. Chloe felt defeated. But she remembered that Olivia had always obeyed her as a child, so she had one last option. Liv, I know you have suffered these years. I wasn't with you then. But now I'm back. I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Olivia met Chloe's gaze. She hesitated slightly for an instant when she saw the sincerity in her eyes. But Chloe then said, I've been there since Marina was a child. She is a very outstanding woman. I think she suits Ethan well. Can you please listen to me and let her have Ethan?" Olivia was dumbfounded, but Chloe had more to say. Chloe noticed that Olivia was silent. She continued, "It's not that I love her more. The thing is, you're already divorced from Ethan. If you continue to cling to him, your reputation will be ruined. Casual date is just a click away. Sign up and start meeting women in your area today. Another thing is, the two of them already had a child together. Can you not break them up for Connor's sake?" Olivia had always had this feeling that she was adopted when she was younger. She started to feel like that again. She wondered how Chloe was able to utter those words. She claimed not to love Marina more. Yet, every word she said was in Marina's interest. Olivia looked at her and said with amusement, "Have you ever thought about this? Marina is the third wheel in this relationship. And Ethan is the one clinging on to me, not the other way around. I'll be thankful if you can convince him to stay away." Chloe was taken aback. Her brows began to furrow. She had a look of disbelief. "Liv, I know you might have a big misunderstanding with me. But please do not take your anger out on Marina." Olivia was shocked. Chloe had suddenly knelt down while she was talking. Tears flowed from Chloe's eyes. She said in a sad tone, "I'll use the rest of my life to make up for the sufferings I caused you. My only request is that you let Marina off the hook. Please just let her and Ethan be." Olivia's condition had stabilized. But she felt her blood boil when she heard Chloe's words. She began to see red. There were so many things wrong with what Chloe said. But Olivia couldn't form any words in her mouth. She was so angry her entire body was shaking. The door opened with a bang. A group of people were standing at the door. The Carltons were standing at the door. They were furious when they saw what was going on in the room. Chris was especially angry. He quickly approached Olivia and Chloe. He was relatively gentle to Olivia before. But now, he was staring daggers at her. "What are you doing, honey?" Chris said in a serious tone as he helped Chloe up. Before Olivia could say anything, Chris said harshly, "Miss Fordham, no matter what prejudices you might have against her, she is your mother, after all. She had been thinking of you all these years. The worry she felt caused her to be unwell. She also has a pre-existing heart condition. Why do you keep agitating her? Will you only be happy after you've killed her? Please stop, honey," Chloe attempted to defend Olivia. Chris patted her on her hand and said with an intense expression, "Miss Fordham, believe it or not, I do feel bad for you. Casual date is just a click away. Sign up and start meeting women in your area today. I truly want to treat you like my own daughter. I want to allow Chloe to carry out her duties as a mother. But I now know why Ethan wanted to divorce you." Olivia's stomach was feeling better when she woke up. But after hearing what these two had said, she was so angry she couldn't speak. The pain in her abdomen began to spread to her entire body. It hurt so much that her brows were furrowed tightly. She mustered all her strength to squeeze the words from between her teeth. "Why? Because a woman like you doesn't deserve any kindness. Look at your mother. She almost died giving birth to you. Not only are you not repaying her gift of life to you, but you also treat her badly. Are you not worried that karma might get back at you? Olivia swallowed the blood in her mouth and glared at Chris. Are you finished? If you're finished, get out of here. She didn't want to say another word. Talking with people like them was a waste of time. She wasn't one of theirs. She was at fault no matter what she did. Olivia was in a lot of pain. She just wanted to rest. She had no energy to argue. Casual date is just a click away. But the Carltons were offended, especially Marina. She finally had a chance to vent her frustration. Ethan wasn't here. The Fordhams weren't here. Olivia was all alone. Marina began to take her anger out on Olivia. She shoved Olivia to the ground hard. Olivia, how shameless are you? You are already divorced from Ethan. Stop clinging to him. Olivia was in so much pain that she was covered in sweat. She bit her lip. She was so weak she couldn't speak. Chloe saw that something was wrong with her. She leaned over and tried to help her up. Liv, what's wrong? Why are you so pale? The heart-wrenching pain in her stomach consumed her. Cold sweat covered her body. She tried to respond defiantly. But she realized she was too weak from the pain to speak. Marina pulled Chloe's hand away from Olivia and said, Mom, didn't you say she loved to pretend? I didn't even push her that hard, but she fell. I think she's pretending again. Chloe recalled the time Olivia pretended to be sick when she was young. She looked hesitant. Marina said with a cold expression, Stop pretending, Olivia. No one here cares if you're in pain. Olivia was in so much pain that she was losing consciousness. She could faintly feel that Marina had kicked her twice on the leg. The heel of Marina's shoe hit a joint on her leg. It made the pain worse. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.